So Alexis Myah is a student in our current nonprofit management program. She was in our, I think she was in my Empowered to Serve class, no, my hashtag Change the World class last fall. And as some of you know, Eric and Kelly for sure, that sometimes you can get sucked in and then you never get to go away. So anyway, so she is a history major, first major and second major in nonprofit management. And now she's the secretary of the Student Nonprofit Alliance, which is our professional association. And this winter, we decided that a really good thing for us to do would to host these professional development series workshops with bringing back people who study this stuff and do it for a living. And some of them are our graduates, and Myah, I know that you're a graduate of Slippery Rock, but not necessarily our program, but bring people together who are doing this work around different areas. So we did one on working with women's issues, that women and LGBTQ issues. We did one on working with children, youth, another one on working with people with disabilities. And what we tried to do was to create different professional development foci that would attract students from all across the campus, because we want them to know that no matter what your major is, the chances of you ended up working in a nonprofit sector are pretty great, with 1.6 million nonprofit organizations and growing, and over 15 million people in the country working in nonprofit organizations, that there's a great place for all of you. And so this particular professional development workshop is really focused on working in the nonprofit humanities, in the arts and humanities in the nonprofit sector. So Alexis, thank you so much for being the host for today's workshop. And we have a gift card, a $25 gift card for students who are on the call. And so if you would like to put your name and your email in the chat, before we're finished, we'll draw a name and we'll send you a $25 gift card. So thanks for everybody for coming, and great to see my friends again. So be well. Go ahead, Alexis.
All right, well, everyone, thank you for joining us, and thank you for our panel guests who are speaking here today. I will introduce them. So the first one is Eric Wisenberg. Please forgive me if I pronounce your last names wrong. All right, Eric is the Director of Development at the Colonial Theater Group, and he graduated from Slippery Rock University with a bachelor's degree in anthropology and a minor in Spanish. Then we have Myah Werkmeister. She is the operating manager for the Creative Citizen Studio in Pittsburgh, PA, and she graduated from Slippery Rock University with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in a concentration in ceramics and digital media. And then we also have Kelly Sheridan, who is the government grant manager for Carnegie Museum of Art, Carnegie Museum of Natural History, Carnegie Science Center, and the Andy Warhol Museum. She graduated from Slippery Rock University with a degree in special education and special education transition programming, and philanthropy nonprofit management. So if each of you guys would like to say a little bit more about what you do, Eric, if you would like to go first.
Sure. Thank you, Alexis, and thank you, Alice, for putting all this together. Alexis for putting all this together. At the Colonial Theater Group in Keene, New Hampshire. I've been there about 9 years, and basically responsible for all fundraising, whether it's management of the individual and corporate membership campaigns, as well as writing grants, planning special events, that sort of thing.
All right, Myah, would you like to go next?
Sure. When I graduated from Slippery Rock, my last name was Merhut. Now I have this really long last name that's hard to pronounce, so no problem, Alexis. Thank you for inviting me here, and I'm really excited to chat with you all. Like you had said, I was not a nonprofit management major. I was a Bachelor of Fine Arts major with a concentration in ceramics and digital media. I kind of fell into the nonprofit world, it kind of just naturally happened. Right after graduation, I went and studied ceramics at Touchstone Center for Crafts in Farmington, PA. And I really honed in on my ceramics career there. And a friend reached out to me. We had no Wi-Fi or service up there for the entire summer I was up there, but I was able to be off campus one day and got an email from a friend that said Creative Citizens was hiring. And that's kind of how I got into this role. So we are an arts and disabilities organization based in Pittsburgh. When I started, we were based at the Union Project, but now we rent space from Pittsburgh Center for the Arts. We're very small. It's just myself, our executive director, and then a lead teaching artist. So I kind of wear a couple different hats in our organization. I am operations manager, so I do a lot of like parent caregiver communication, things like that. But I also am a teaching artist, so I teach there as well. Not being part of the nonprofit world, I had a lot to learn. However, our executive director has been awesome in teaching me a lot of different things. So I just love the nonprofit sector. It was the thing I didn't know I'd fall into, but I do love working for this group. So
Myah, I didn't recognize your last name, but when you said your first name, I mean your maiden name, I did. And you were involved in Student Nonprofit Alliance, and I think you took one nonprofit management class with us.
Yes, I did.
You were toying around at that time already. Oh, should I do nonprofit or should I do what? I remember that. So nice to see you again. Great.
Nice to see you too. I definitely dabbled in a couple of areas. I was like, do I go education? Do I go nonprofit? And then I just went art, and it all falls into place eventually.
Good for you.
Thank you.
All right, and Kelly?
Hi, thanks again for having me. It's so nice to see you all, especially you, Alice. Yeah, as you said, I am the manager of government grants for Carnegie Museums of Pittsburgh, also known as CMP. And so it encompasses a lot of museums, including Science Center, Warhol, the Art Museum, History, also Powder Mill Nature Reserve. And so in this role, I mostly do a lot of project management of various projects. And I help write grant proposals and reports for from government sources locally and nationally. Projects can go from like scientific research to exhibitions, education. So there's a lot of variety. And then it all started because I was really into special education, and then that required a civic engagement class with Alice, which really threw me into the nonprofit sector. That's when I realized that's where I belong.
All right, well, thank you guys. So now we'll start the prepared questions we have, and at the end, if anybody else has any questions they would like to unmute their mic or ask, or just type in chat, we can do that. So the first one would be, what do you like most about working in the arts and humanities specifically?
Like I said, this was not something that I really thought I would get into because I didn't really know what I wanted to do graduating college, graduating from Slippery Rock. And I have a sister with cerebral palsy and an intellectual disability. So I have this semi-disability community background, but it's very much like family-based. It's just kind of like what I don't know, I always worked with my sister and I always hung out with our friends that have disabilities, and it kind of like ran into that eventually. And then arts was something that came on in my life later on when I really got into ceramics and my degree at Slippery Rock. So I'd say my favorite thing is just the connection between the two. For myself, the group that I work with is the two groups, and how the artists we work with are adults and they do have disabilities, but there's no segregation between them being an artist and myself being an artist. So I'm like, I don't know. I really appreciate the fact that they're able to have this opportunity to become professional artists and that we're able to help them do that. And there's no limitations. They can do whatever they want, and just like we can. So, thanks.
I'll go. Go ahead, Kelly. You good? All right. Working in arts and humanities, I don't know. Personally, I love experiencing arts and culture to the fullest. and equally witnessing people do the same. So I'm definitely set up for that where I work at the Colonial Theater. But in the region that I live, the city of Keene that I live, but the region that I live, the Monadnock region, it's just teeming with artists. You know, it's such a vibrant cultural community, cultural region, everything from artists to, you know, gallery owners to performing arts centers. So, yeah, I'm definitely fortunate to live where I live and work where I do, experiencing such a vibrant arts and culture scene. And with the Colonial Theater and set up in downtown Keene, New Hampshire, we're such a hub. We're such a what am I trying to say? Like a cornerstone for the creative economy. So the creative economy is definitely real. When there's a show happening at the Colonial Theater, the restaurants are booked. You know, the men's clothing store next door always sells a suit the night of a show. You know, that sort of thing. So it's definitely real, and I definitely enjoy that part of it.
I like this field of work because it's something I would innately already have the instinct to do. So even if it wasn't for the sake of having a job. And then also working in the arts and humanities gives you the opportunity to stay current with the needs of the community while having room to creatively address those needs.
All right, and how does the nonprofit management major or even classes that you took, how has that helped you in your career today?
I said, Eric, yours was more experiential learning on the job as opposed while you were here, as opposed to just only classes. But certainly I think your experience, I mean, if you could talk about that experience in national service as a way that you got your entry, even if you didn't have the classes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I had the one class with you, which I can't remember the name of. Do you? It was so long ago. Was it the intro class? I mean,
the intro to nonprofit management I was teaching then probably was that, or either the civic engagement, but probably intro to nonprofit, or maybe the fundraising class. I don't know for sure. I
think it might have been the civic engagement, but in any event, yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to participate in 5 care breaks. The first one, I was nearing the end of my studies at Slippery Rock, so it was like 98, 99. And went to New Mexico, and then the year after, you know, meeting a lot of the folks that were involved in the Connector Corps program, which was the AmeriCorps program at Slippery Rock, decided to join that as a senior the following year, and you know, gain that firsthand knowledge about nonprofit management and volunteerism and working with folks in the sector. That was huge. And then having the opportunity after I graduated to basically run and coordinate the care break program at Slippery Rock for 2 years, in 2000 and 2001. So as an AmeriCorps Vista, actually. So I believe there were 4 of us in the department at that time. Each one of us had our own focus and had our own responsibilities, but mine was to coordinate the care break program for a couple of years. So that was incredible. I mean, that definitely honed me in, you know, wanting to 100% be a nonprofit professional, and you know, so much so that I decided to seek out a school to continue my studies, my master's degree. So that's why I moved to New England in 2003 to go to school at the School for International Training in Brattleboro, Vermont, where I acquired a degree in intercultural service, leadership, and management. So essentially it was nonprofit management, but it was their self-designed degree where you could pick and choose classes from all the disciplines that they offered. So I chose classes in organizational management, you know, nonprofit management, sustainable development, that sort of thing. There was also conflict transformation and international education, that sort of thing. So I was very fortunate to, and that was, you know, experiential learning based. And, you know, I got to work with individuals from all over the world. In my class of about 160 individuals, there was about 80 nationalities represented, which was insane. It was amazing. And to do group work, to come together and to talk about issues and resolve those issues and that sort of thing, Yeah, really had me focused on that, and having the opportunity to actually do a internship somewhere in the world. I chose Nicaragua, and that was the site of one of the international care break that I went on a few years prior. So having been there, I just wanted to see, and loving it, I wanted to see what else I could do, and was able to hook up with an organization, do my internship, and consequently write my thesis about that experience. So, and all that just propelled me into the field I'm in as a nonprofit professional.
That's great.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to reiterate the question of how the major has helped you in your career today or classes you took.
Something that really stands out that I think about a lot behind a lot of my thought processes in my job now are the desk references that we did in Alice's class, honestly, because everything that you were required to do in those binders totally reflects exactly what I do now, because you have to put together with a table of contents, like usually a budget, like for major government proposals, like budget, list of personnel, evaluation, sustainability plan, assessment of need, expected results, all of it. So those project management skills that we learned is a huge niche that I was able to have versus other people who don't have a nonprofit degree, who are applying for the role. And like this is kind of off topic, but this major truly helps with your career, because even if you don't go into nonprofit per se, like sports industries, and even like for-profit companies who have philanthropic initiatives, all value those skills that you learn here as well.
So you guys know that I wasn't a nonprofit management major. However, I do think about it often about how certain things would have helped me if I would have gone that route. And I think about the same thing with education, a couple other things. And I think we're all destined to be on the path that we're on for many reasons. But I, currently I work under our executive director, and I'm going to be taking over her role in the next couple of months because she's having a baby. I'm just stepping in for her as she goes through maternity leave and things like that. But there are things that I'm like learning on the fly right now that I probably could have benefited from learning them a lot earlier, and it would have been an easier transition. So I definitely think that combination of something you're really interested in, and then the nonprofit role, like management major, would have been super beneficial for me. Like I said, now I'm kind of taking some like small classes on the side and filling in where I need, especially with like money and things like that. I was an art major and I was like, no, I don't deal with money. Like, no way. Now I deal with money all the time. And I'm like writing grants and it, it's just crazy. But I should have definitely done like a budgeting course or project development, like Kelly said. And it definitely would give you an edge too. It just so happened that I'm in this tiny organization and we're fitting these roles as we go, but a lot of the times I think that having that product management and like nonprofit background is really going to help you be a little bit ahead of the person that may not have that background. So,
and if I could just intervene real quick, there are at least 5 students, and hi Maddie, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a bit, but there are at least 5 students who maybe I don't know. But Slippery Rock is the only university in Pennsylvania that offers an undergraduate degree in nonprofit management. And so students that leave Slippery Rock with a first degree in history, for example, or a first degree in art and a second degree in nonprofit management actually are unique in the job market because no other university is producing those nonprofit majors. And the other thing that I would mention, and this is to be the last of my cheap commercial here, well, maybe not, but Eric smiles because he knows better, right? But the other piece is the way our major is set up is that there are core courses there's 6 courses that you're required to take, but the other courses in the second major are designed by you. So if you want to do art with people with special needs, for example, you could do an art first major, a nonprofit second major, and the courses that you pick as your emphasis area could almost be a minor in special education or a course in psych courses and sociology courses that would help you to really work with that particular niche in the nonprofit sector. You get a lot of attention in this department because it is a kind of grow your own major. And so you'll have your art or your history or your theater professor, but then you would have somebody from our department also that is also helping you craft your course of study. So, and if you have any questions, I can put my name in the chat. And certainly I always tell people it's better to ask the customers than to ask me. So Alexis is also willing and very capable of talking about the program too, should you like to get back to her.
Yes,
Thanks.
absolutely. All right. Now, for what is any type of advice you would have for someone who is looking into going into the nonprofit sector?
Run! No.
I would say volunteer, continue to volunteer if you are already. Just volunteer for as many types of organizations that you have an interest in, and even some that you're kind of hesitant about because you never know, just keep going. Talk to professors, talk to current students, as well as alumni. I'll put my name in the chat if you want to have an offline conversation. I'm happy to do that as well. But yeah, keep volunteering.
I think volunteering is a really big aspect of working in a nonprofit, because a lot of the times you start out in this non-paid role, but it's really valuable because you get to see a lot of the things that even some of the paid professionals don't get to see. I mean, I was volunteered with a lot of nonprofits in the past, and you're like really in it. You're in the zone, like you're doing the work. And now that I'm in the admin stuff, and I'm a teaching artist, so it helps because I get to see a lot of the programmatic things that we do. However, there's some times where I'm like, I feel a little disconnected because I'm not there in it anymore. So definitely volunteering helped. And I feel like Dr. Rindy a little bit with the networking thing, but you gotta network. It's like so important. Just like meeting someone and being kind and just getting connected with different groups. And there's so many connections within the nonprofit world. And I think that's the sweet thing about being able to write grants to partner with other people. You never know when that person's going to come back in your life and you'll be like, oh my gosh, like we could partner together. Even before this conversation, Kelly and I were like, wait, we know each other. And we couldn't remember what it was, and we kind of chatted, but now she works with our Carnegie, which we were just partnering with at Creative Citizens. So I don't know, it's nice to learn to network. And even if it's not on LinkedIn and it's just like hey, I'm so-and-so from so-and-so, that's great. People just want to learn about you and learn about your organization. So.
I guess another piece of advice would be not to expect your dream job right away and be open to working really hard at maybe several types of jobs at once, because naturally, if you're genuinely just mission oriented and maybe not doing something that you really want to do forever, the success will follow that. If you're genuinely focused on a cause as well and not just doing it to feel good or to look like a good person, I think that definitely gets in the way of actually becoming successful and ending up like the career follows if you just are mission oriented before career oriented when it comes to working in this field.
Can I add something, Alexis?
Yeah, of course.
I was there's like a second part to this, but I totally spaced it. No, I just want to focus on, I mean, in today's world where there's so much hatred towards certain groups of people, honestly, based on my experience with my master's degree and things and working with people from all over the world, I strongly believe that solutions can be accomplished when people work together as a team and that sort of thing. And, remembering to make it participatory, don't force your ideas on others, listen, be patient, that sort of thing. what's relative in one person's culture may not be relative in another. But it won't be easy, but nothing really worth it is. So, thank you.
I actually completely agree with that, because I also wanted to say that something you can be doing now, and this might be answering the next question, but something really important to be doing if this is a career you want to be in is to just really stay up to date with current events and listen to podcasts, read books, like be very knowledgeable on like anti-racism, transgender rights, cultural appropriation, and especially with museums. There's a lot of decolonization work that we're doing, and not being aware of those things, it would be really hard to fit in a lot of nonprofits.
Because at their nonprofits, most nonprofits are engaged in social justice issues at some level and equity. So
yeah, they're supposed to be like a public servant, so they have to, no matter really what their mission is, they really should all be inclusive in every way.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say inclusivity is so important to really be knowledgeable about. It's something that I like read about all the time, and I feel like it changes. So you have to just keep up with it. The stuff you may read in your textbooks about being inclusive has changed. It's changed dramatically in the last, I don't know, decade or so. It changes all the time. So staying current is really important. I totally agree, Eric and Kelly.
And don't you think that once you get your brain in that lane, that it's not hard to think that way anymore? I mean, initially, in my classes, I always tell students, after you're finished with these classes, you'll never go in and look at the YMCA in the same way anymore. You'll go into the Y and you'll say, wonder how much they had to raise for that pool renovation. I mean, kind of ruins your life in some ways. No, I'm just kidding. You'll never go into a museum and look at it the same way if you're in this sector. But once your brain gets in that lane, it's not hard. It's whether it's the inclusivity or how do we raise the money or how do we reach the mission. It's a matter of just a different way of thinking, I think.
Sorry to jump in again on this, but that reminded me of something else that I learned in your class, Alice, or a metaphor that you said. It might be a well-known thing, but I like quoted it in a meeting when we were trying to come up with a project that really focuses on like the community's interests and like their self-identified need rather than us, like maybe nonprofit, maybe it's always been this way, but as time goes on, like the focus of nonprofits is really being less of a savior for people in a charity. It's like nobody really uses the word charity anymore. And the metaphor was, instead of I think you told a story, somebody built a playground for a community thinking that that's what they wanted because they had children, but what they really needed was food or the tools to learn how to build their own playground so that's more sustainable. And I think that metaphor truly encompasses the entire work in this field.
A lot of times in class, I'll talk about I love little words. And so I talk about prepositions a lot. And if a nonprofit is doing something to, at, or for somebody, it's not going to work. It only works when you do it with. And if you're not a with kind of person, you won't like being in this sector because you can't manage it all. It's really, it's trite, but it takes a village, right? And so it's about with. And if you're a with kind of person, then this might be a good environment, I think, for you.
Even on that, I mean, something I've learned is that I didn't really know about the nonprofit sector is how involved your board is and your advisory board and all the other governance that goes along with your group. When I started, it was just like me and two other people. And I was like, oh, it's just us, here we are. But there's so much more involved. You always are going to your board and advisory board and things like that for information. And you really just got to work together. That teamwork and with aspect is so important in the nonprofit field.
And just to interject, I know I'm not a panel member, but as a current student in the program, like Alice was talking about, you have to learn how to do it with them. Like, I'm always someone who does it like for somebody else, but this program really helps you figure out how to do it with them versus how to do it for them. So even if you don't know or have those skills yet, this program will teach you how to do that. All right, and for the last prepared question that I have, and then we can open it up to any questions that you all may have, is what is one thing you recommend students to do now while they're in school to prepare them for work in this career?
Speaking from experience, like I wish I would have taken other classes that would have helped me now, and I wouldn't have been able to know what was going to help me. But we all like, I remember being in school and being like, I'm so busy, I can't add one more thing. But like the truth of the matter is you probably can, or you can take another semester. It's not that big of a deal to take a couple extra classes, or take unpaid opportunities as well. That was like one thing I think that really helped me, was taking a bunch of unpaid opportunities from the beginning. Like I was paid a stipend at the art craft school that I went to over the summer of like $50 a week, but like that led me to so many other connections and opportunities. And even though it's unpaid, like you make it out of there. Like it's fine. You end up finding other things in the future. So just learning from experience and continuing to just be a learner is super important. So school ends and learning doesn't. So just remember to like keep taking classes and learn from other people.
Did I say volunteer? I think I did. Yeah. Keep doing that. Also join discussion groups on the topic. You know, reflection is a key part of it too, whether you're, you know, which I learned in the AmeriCorps program, but if you're not, you know, talk to groups of people about your experience, or join discussion groups, as I mentioned. Journal, you know, you'll be surprised when you look back at it years later about how much you've grown, and you know, maybe even pull some tidbits out of there to help you out that you didn't recognize fully. Take a class in anthropology if you can. Take a class in cross-cultural communication if you can. These things are important.
Yeah, all my advice has already been kind of said. I was gonna say definitely volunteer. That I think volunteer experience is valued in every job I've ever been applied for or been offered. And even if it's not feasible due to like money constraints, which I'm sure, yeah. So if it's, or an unpaid internship, hopefully those go away slowly. At least, you know, a part-time job in the nonprofit sector, like even if it's not like, even if it's like direct care or a few hours a week, just doing something else. So yeah, definitely volunteer work. And then I think I kind of already answered some of my other stuff that I noted that I wanted to say. But yeah, I think the biggest thing overall is definitely just staying current with issues in the community, because that is the exact root of all the work that you're going to do.
And I would say to do your best to get out of your comfort zone, because once you're out of your comfort zone grows, and you'll find so many more treasures in what your comfort zone is. And so do things that you don't know if you can do it. Do things that make you a little nervous. At Slippery Rock, we have lots of opportunities for you to do that. Whether I usually take, the past 2 years I haven't been able to, but I usually take a group of students somewhere international over spring break to do a service learning spring break. We don't do care breaks at Slippery Rock anymore, Eric, but I still do them in my class. And so a few years ago, I took a group of students to Kenya over winter break, and we stayed at an orphanage and worked with girls for 3 weeks. And well, for 2.5 weeks, we spent 4 days on a safari too. But anyway, so, you know, just those, when you see those opportunities to get out of your comfort zone, whether it's, we have a very, and Alexis could probably tell you more, but we have a very active student nonprofit organization here, and we're always doing projects. You know, if you don't know how to do a project, this is a safe environment. Nobody's going to fire you because you don't know how. These are great places to practice those skills. Even if you're not a major, you can still be involved in those kind of organizations. I would also suggest, if you think you might like to do this work, take a good look at yourself and ask yourself why. And, you know, why do you want to do this work? And Kelly, I really liked your point about, you know, the sector is moving away from being the savior and to being the empower, those that empowering people. And if you, you know, do some internal reflection to see about why you want to do it, and not just what you want to do. So.
All right, well, before I open this up to questions from the attendees, I have one question that kind of goes off what Alice was just talking about, of what was your like favorite aha moment from working in the nonprofit of like, I'm so glad I'm in here kind of thing?
You can see in their eyes that they're going through the files up there. That's cool. That there's a lot to choose from, right?
There's like too many to choose from. It's so funny. Like I said, I started as a teaching artist, so I just taught one class, 2 hours a week. It was a clay-based class, so all the artists were making stuff with clay. And then I moved into this other role, and I'm still teaching now. However, my sister just got involved in Creative Citizens, and you feel like you know your sister like you know yourself. That's like super, like, I don't know, it's cliche, but like I thought I knew my sister so well. And my sister with cerebral palsy, and she decided she wanted to be in art classes. So I'm like her aide, and then my co-teacher is her actual teacher. And there's just, she has so much creative talent that we did not harness when we were young, we were growing up and things like that. And seeing it in all these other artists that I worked with, like I was seeing it every day. And then for some reason I was like, oh, let's get Molly involved. Let's see what we can do. And she has like totally skyrocketed and has been like making these things. And it may not be representational like some of the other artists that I work with do, but if I'm working with her, I can see like what she is making. Say I'm like, hey, can we draw these things that are on our table? I'll start to actually see these ideas develop, and I'm handing her the colors that she wants and things like that. I mean, her hands are like this, but she's extremely like involved in what we're doing, and her questions to the instructor that we have just been amazing. And it's like, I didn't think I could learn anything new about my own sister. I was like, oh, I know how she's going to treat this class. It's going to be fun. She's going to love it. And she did, but she's also like super, super like enriching the experience by a milestone. So I don't know. That was kind of my like thing. I'm like, I'm seeing this happen in my own family, and she's really loving it. It's just, it feels right to be in this place. So hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I guess sort of an aha was, definitely in the AmeriCorps office, trying to get donations for certain programs we were leading or care breaks we were going on, and I developed quite a proclivity for that, a penchant for that, and I just felt like, all right, if I can get 20 meals for this week donated for our care break trip, I mean, can I ask somebody for $1 million? And yeah, sure. It turned into that. I mean, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. Alice has heard this story 100 times, but learning anthropology and, focusing on archaeology, but then, taking classes that focused on the cultural side of the discipline, coupled with, volunteering with AmeriCorps and volunteering on certain projects propelled me in that direction. So something I wanted to, so yeah, it was an aha for sure.
And you got lots of 20 meals donated, Eric. You should know that the last year that Eric was with our as a Vista, there were 8 care breaks that year, weren't there, Eric? Yeah. 8 different groups with 15 students at least going all over the country. And Eric coordinated all of that. If you could do that, you could collect $1 million somewhere. Amazing work. And if I had told you that when you were a junior, you would have said, no way.
I would have thought you were nuts. Yeah.
I think you probably did, but.
Yeah, I don't have a specific, I just have moments all the time. It's just a consistent knowing that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, mostly because well, writing grants, one, I just love to write, but also receiving money that is going to create a broader sustainable impact on the community is just so cool to see and be a part of. Where working on the front lines of nonprofit is also so great, and I miss that a lot as well. But this is the behind the scenes is just really cool to see, like, generated change and community development over the years that we're expecting. I've only been here a couple of years. And then also another thing is working with a lot of people who are like-minded, and working with people who share the same mission every day is just ideal. Like I said earlier, like, this is what I would be doing for fun. Like I connect sometimes I'll have a conversation with a friend or see something on social media, and it's always somehow connected to something I'm doing in my job. So that just always, like, reassures that this is where I belong.
You know, I think it's interesting because I think of, I don't know, some of you are artists, I know. So embroidery thread is not high-tech art, I get it. But, you know, if you buy a package of embroidery thread and you look at one of those strands, it's really not one strand, it's 5 strands that are very, very, very tightly woven, right? And same with yarn. And, you know, we're like that embroidery thread. We have our family, we have our career, we have all those different threads. And I think what Kelly just said sort of says to me that I always have felt that I was very blessed and very fortunate to have my threads wrapped tightly. So I didn't have to go from one part of my life to another part of my life and change hats and be a different person. And in this sector, you know, you're able to be who you are, whether you're in the workplace or the home place and your friend base, because it's a real treat to be with people that are like-minded, like Kelly said, and also people that are positive. I mean, you know, you can't do this work if you're not a little crazy optimistic, right? And so it's kind of fun to be in that kind of environment instead of that one that just feels like they're sucking the life right out of you every time. So that's what I would say I like best about it. And my role is a faculty member, but I also have directed nonprofit programs. And for me at this point in my career, it's really fun to be able to work with students who don't know if they can do this, and then they go do it like these people on the screen have done. What an honor I have.
I've actually worked in that section. Oh, I'm sorry, Eric. I didn't see that you're unmuted. I actually worked in that section where I was like wearing too many hats. I was like I graduated, I went to that craft school. When I got home, I worked for CCS and just that one class. And then I also worked for an IT company. Nothing was wrong with the IT company, but it was all big business and it just wasn't for me. And I knew it. And I kind of had to look at myself and be like, do I want to stay in this and suffer and not be as happy as I could be? Or do I want to, like, take a little bit of a pay cut, just move into just the nonprofit sector in the arts sector that I also work in? And I was like, yeah, and I'm so much more relieved now. You'll realize what is the right path for you. And that wearing too many hats thing is like all too familiar. But you'll find your couple like hats that you can always wear and put them on and keep going. So I appreciated that, Alice. Thank you.
Yeah, not to Eric's turn.
Thank you. No, just to put not even a finer point, y'all have put the point on it, but just to echo it, you know, being passionate about what you're doing and having, you know, even if you're volunteering for an organization to fulfill like 10 hours or something, you know, knowing about that organization and being able to speak passionately about it and knowledgeably about it goes a long way. You know, talking to somebody in an elevator for 20 seconds and really, you know, I focus on that all the time. You know, not that I'm in elevators all the time, but no, the point of like really driving that home and getting that message crisp and clean, and being genuine about it. You know, there's not many used car salesmen that are in the nonprofit. So yeah, just being really genuine about it. Apologies if anybody's, you know, family's a used car salesman.
I think I was just gonna reiterate that, like, even if it's not an art organization, nonprofit that you're working for, you always get to be creative because the needs of the people that you serve or the additional people that you want to serve are always going to change. So every day is super different, which I like. I don't like I like every day to be different. And the methods of solving things are going to be different and always unique. So I think the creativity part is also just really important for me to have in a career.
All right, great. Well, are there any questions that anyone has for our panelists that you would like to ask them? You could unmute your mic or type them in the chat.
So if you have comments also, and while you're doing that, Alexis, we can probably post this or send out the email to somebody, to folks. We have 2 more events coming up. On April 13th, we're doing an event called Getting a Job in the Nonprofit Sector. And we have Susan Schmidt, who will be joining us for the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance, which is a national nonprofit organization that certifies our students to be what are called CNP, Certified Nonprofit Professionals. And then on April 15th, Alexis, you want to talk about what your class is doing?
We are having Adam, how do you say it?
Leipzig.
Leipzig. I'm not good with last names. We are having him come and speak to SRU students and the public. I'm pretty sure they are invited as well. And he is going to talk to us about finding your purpose through your passion. He has a whole TED Talk on it if you would like to go look that up and come join that event, because it's going to be very informative and just helpful if you don't know what your purpose is yet. All right, I saw in the chat that Kaylin asked if you all could speak a little bit more about grant writing.
Like the process of grant writing. Okay, so I guess like a quick overview of government. Well, I used to do like foundation also. So you can do foundation grants and government grants. And government ones in particular, they're very similar. They're just way more intense. And there's grants for everything. So there's grants for like scientific research, exhibitions, education. So it could range from local, like the Allegheny Regional Asset District, which is funded by like local taxes, or it could be national funding like NASA or the National Science Foundation. And so like if you wanted to be a grant writer, the job it also includes a lot of project management. So you'd have to come up with like a scope of work of when you're in internal deadlines to completing the grant itself, but also project scope, which would have to entail what I mentioned before, like you have to develop a budget and answer all these questions that are provided in a solicitation, a notice of funding opportunity online. So it usually takes a couple months to put together depending on what the project is. And then once you're awarded, then you have to come up with reports to stay compliant with your award, which is a whole nother project. And in the reports, you talk about, you know, some of the results and like what activities were completed. And then there's other random things that go into it. I hope that was a good brief overview. Sorry if it wasn't. If I missed anything, Myah or Eric can please add.
If you like writing term papers, then grant writing is for you.
The word grant was really scary to me, like starting in the nonprofit sector, because I was like, Oh, art major, I didn't do that kind of stuff. And I had friends that had written grants for things at school, and I was like, oh, that's great. Super cool, guys. Glad you did that. But I didn't do that kind of stuff in school, but I really wish I would have. Now that I'm in it, like I'm realizing how much there is that goes into them. Like Kelly said, I think that was a great overview of like some of the things you have to do in it to write a grant, and to actually follow through with the entire project. It's really keeping organized. If you're in the nonprofit, oh, sorry, I think I'm repeating. I have like a little echo right now, but if you're in the nonprofit sector, doesn't mean that you'll necessarily be the one writing the grants, but you might be following along with the grant, and you have to really like keep on the budget and make sure that the project's actually developing the way it should. And things can change. I mean, like we had a ton of grants this year, and then the pandemic hit and they changed dramatically. So it can change, but you really do want to like keep on track with them. If you have the opportunity to try some grant writing, or even just research, like think of a project and then like look for a grant online, and then see if you could actually like come up with all of the steps that would be involved with it. Even if you're not going to write the grant or like come up with it, it's just like a fun thing to do. I've done that for myself a couple of times. Like, oh, look, maybe I'll think about this project. What kind of grant would I need for that? You end up realizing how much money goes into it, how much staff time, things like that. So.
And depending on who you're going to reach out to access these funds, I mean, I've seen guidelines on grants that are simple one-page letter to, so extensive. They want so much backup information, et cetera. And Kelly's right, and Myah's right too. Even more important part is the monitoring and the reporting after the fact, because the last thing you want is somebody to take back that award. So, and that can happen.
Yeah, I put in the chat that if you go to Bailey Library's database, as a student, you can look in a database called Grant Select, and you can put, like Myah said, type any kind of topic, children with disabilities, and it'll show you, in that case, probably about 1,500 nonprofits, foundations that are funding that sort of thing. Doesn't mean that everyone's going to be a right match, because some of them might only fund people that are in Keene, New Hampshire, but you can still look there. And my experience with grant writing is that for me, it's probably easier to write the proposal and get it funded than it is to manage it once it comes. Because and see, you don't know what the project's going to look like when you're writing it. And that's a really creative piece. And then sometimes when you're trying to implement it, it's much more challenging to implement. And I think those students who are artists have a better understanding of that than maybe others, because you have in your head what you want that piece of pottery to look like, but the wheel also has in its head what the piece of pottery is going to look like. And so you're making it up, and it's totally, you have no control sometimes over how it's going to run, because it's dependent on lots of factors. But I'll tell you, and I think I heard Kelly kind of say this, once you get good at it and you start, whether it's grant writing or Eric, I know you do a lot of donors and you get money in different ways other than just grants. I mean, it's kind of like a drug, it's like your crack. You could really be a junkie to get this, because when I would apply for a grant, even if I get $5,000, like, woohoo, I got money today. It's kind of, I mean, it's a little bit sick. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I was gonna say that, yeah, like it's like a rush getting like $1 million, like getting that email, like your grant, you just generated like $1 million with the team. And then when you get declined, obviously that's, all that work it wasn't really for nothing, because you could always use that scope and just get money for the same, you have that business plan almost created already. And then I think one last important thing to add about grant writing is you do work, at least for the museums, since the content is usually like science, like I'm not a scientist, so somebody will come up with the content and you work with like a team, and then the grant writer kind of helps, manage the project with that content and then makes it all pretty. And so my favorite part about it is writing about the community's need. That is like when I'd research local, you know, community development plans of like Pittsburgh or municipality that we're doing, and then connected with like current research, and then come up with this really compelling, it's like a persuasive essay is how I'd really like sum it up.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions or feedback, thoughts? Feel free to take your mic off.
This is more for Kelly, but I'm a PR major with minors in art history and history, and I'm looking to get involved with museums specifically. Are there things that you recommend, or like, other than just like volunteering with organizations, are there things that you recommend with like getting involved with even the Carnegie Museum specifically?
I'm not too knowledgeable on that front. Like the way I got involved with the museums was not like, I didn't know like it was super random. I just applied, but I know they have internship opportunities. But have you volunteered there before for anything?
If not,
I think, I mean, outside of COVID, there's a lot of volunteer opportunities. But I think, like, are you saying like you'd want to work there someday? And
yeah, work there, intern there.
Yeah, I think
looking for jobs, but
applying.
How far along are you in your program? Are you junior, senior?
I'm a senior, so I'll be graduating in May, and I need to complete an internship this summer, so that's really what my search is right now. But
even something like similar, if there isn't any opportunities there right now, even just something like that would prepare you to work there, even if it's somewhere else. Because like prior to there, I worked like the complete opposite place. Like but I had like the skills that like mimicked what they would want anyway. But yeah, sorry I'm not more helpful on specific opportunities there.
it's okay. It's still super helpful. I appreciate it.
Look on the website. On their website, they do have internships, but most of their internships are pretty competitive. And so that means they select in November for the spring and they select in January for the summer. So you might be too late coming into that. But you know, there are also opportunities, and I know that most students don't want to do this, but there are also opportunities to sort of do a gap year. And that's what VISTA might be, or an AmeriCorps member might be. So to be an AmeriCorps member or VISTA or something like that in a museum, to do almost like a paid year-long internship, there are a lot of opportunities out there. I'd look on LinkedIn, but I would really look at Indeed. If I was doing a search for the nonprofit sector, I'd look on Indeed before I look other places. There's also in Pittsburgh, there's something called nonprofittalent.org. They will list they do have some internships, but more though theirs are jobs. But you know, to look on Indeed for maybe summer internships. Yeah, that might be a place. Oh, Idealist, yeah, that's great. Thanks, Eric. Any other questions? Well, I have 5 names in my hand here, and I'll pull one and you'll get a $25 Amazon card. Let's see, here it is. You can see that I just folded and opened it, and it's Madison. So Madison, will you make sure that you give your mailing address to Alexis? Or if you're on campus, you can pick it up here, whichever way. So congratulations.
All right, well, thank you everyone for attending this event. Thank you to our panelists coming and giving all their knowledge to us. It was so helpful and wonderful. So thank you all.
Good luck.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, it's wonderful to see people go do great things. So good for all of you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Super
Catch up
fun.
soon, Alice.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see you are you coming to the event?
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be fun. I mean, well, it's all recorded, so it's kind of weird. Today I'm green screening. So it's all very weird, but yeah, it'll be fun. So thanks everybody. Be well. Thanks Alexis for your good work as always.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Keep up the good work, Myah. Nice
Oh,
to see you
thank
doing
you.
so well.
Nice to see you too.